Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm glad you could be here. I'm really appreciative of the advisors, Ms. Laverne Johnson, Ms. Jane, and Ms. Cassidy for agreeing to collect this information and get it into your hands. Typically, this is information planned to be given to you at Epic Ed in Block 4, but we heard you that you might need to get started right now, at least thinking about it, and you're right. So I think we're all in agreement, and please, thank you for this information and ask your questions as you have them, okay? So I'm gonna just turn it over to Miss Maureen Jane and Miss Erin Cassidy.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna hopefully pull up this PowerPoint. There it is. Okay. I never know anymore. Okay. All right. So I'll try to pull it aside here a little bit, but I am Maureen Jane. I'm the licensing advisor for the School of Education, and Erin Cassidy is working on career choices and options and information. So we do have a lot of information for you, and we're happy to share it. So let's go on to the next one here. Maybe I have to pull it back over. Yeah. Okay, so
Are you all in? There you go, Miss Maureen.
Share. Yeah, share your screen, Maureen. I'm not seeing anything. Does anybody else?
All right, hold on. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yep, I didn't click the green button. Here we go. Let me pull it up here. Now, can you see it?
Nope.
Nope. All right. Oh, I have to do this. I'm so sorry. I am not the world's expert on this stuff. And I'm screen sharing, so maybe you can see this.
There we go.
Okay, so this was the first slide. Go back one. I apologize for my awkwardness. Okay, now we'll get on with the information. If everybody can see it, yes?
Yes.
Okay. There's not a lot of slides here, and I did condense a lot, and there's more about licensing that we will give you in the spring, but you don't really need to know how to apply for a license yet. You need to know what to do in terms of testing and certifications. So right now you need to consider there's 4 components for your licensing. You need to take and pass the right tests. You need to get your CPR certification. You need to complete your suicide prevention training, and you need to graduate, complete your program. And that's what all this we're going to go over. So by taking and passing the right tests, and I do have them in this presentation, and very importantly, you should save your test results and your certifications to your own documents file. We do not store those. And if you need them in the future, which believe me, students often contact me and they're looking for their tests, they're looking for their certifications. We don't have them anymore. So please save them in case you need them in the future. Right now, the state of Indiana uses the Pearson Indiana Core Assessments for Educator Licensure. And those are the ones we're going to go over. You should know that the state is going to transition to ETS praxis testing starting September 1st, 2021. August 31st, 2021 will be the last date to take the current Pearson tests. And registration for the new ETS tests should be available sometime in July of next summer. So for you, you're going to be looking at taking the Pearson tests. And when you do take them and pass them, there's no expiration date to using them for licensure. As long as you've passed all of them by August 31st of 2021, you can use them anytime in the future for licensing. For elementary students, it's not very large, I know, but there are 4 elementary ed tests and 1 pedagogy test, and they're on this screen. The pedagogy is number 005, and there's 4 subtests. The numbers, as you can see and read there, 060, 061, 062, and 063. Now, when you sign up for these tests, make sure on the site for signing up for testing, make sure that you're signing up for the elementary education tests. There's also early childhood tests, and there are also 4 of them, but you're not doing an early childhood program, and the tests cannot be mixed and matched. You can't take some of the early childhood and some of the elementary education to count. The state won't accept that. And so when you're taking your test, please just check the number that you're taking. It has happened in the past that students probably accidentally took the wrong test, and there is no refund. So when I see that they've taken, I try to keep up with their test as quickly as I can, but when I see they've taken the wrong one, I have to notify them that they have to take another one. So I don't want any of that to happen to any of you. So those are the tests that you need for elementary education. For secondary education, it's a longer list here. And again, you're going to be given a link to this and you'll be able to examine this more carefully. But for each area, there is a test. Most areas, you have to have program completion and you have to pass the required test. There are a few areas where you do not, like for ENL and for, no, for ENL, you must complete the program. For all the other areas on there, I just got it turned around for a minute. You could add those areas on later to a license just by taking the test. So, but for right now, you're going to be working on your original license, and it's just going to be the area that your program is in right now, and taking that test and getting that on your license. So are there any questions so far about the tests that I've shown you or told you?
I have a question.
Okay.
Is this webinar useful to specials educators? Like I've already taken and passed the Pearson's art content and the P through 12 pedagogy tests, which I understand are what I need for my licensure.
Yes, that is what you need. The visual arts is on this chart, and you do have to have the 006 pedagogy test for secondary education. You have for art, though, you have to have the P through 12 pedagogy test 007.
I understand that, and I did, and I passed, but my question is,
You're good.
good. My question is though, and I am committed to teaching art. I want to teach art. What my question is, if I've gone through the education program at IUPUI for art education, is there any like segue to say later I want to teach English? Do I just need to go crunch credits, or do I just pass a test?
You could just pass a test for like language arts and add it.
Are you sure?
Uh-huh.
Because I tried to do research and it seemed like everyone was telling me that's not true.
No, it's true. I've been doing this for a long time. Language arts is an area, if you have a current original license and it's a secondary license, you can add, even if it would be an elementary license, if you have a current license with the state of Indiana, you can add these areas here that say the content can be added with a test alone. You can add that area by taking the test alone.
Even if my bachelor's, it's not in elementary or secondary, it's a bachelor's of art education, P through 12.
Right.
Right.
And so you're going to apply for that visual arts license. You're not going to apply for a language arts license. You're going to apply for your visual arts license. And once you get that, which covers grades P through 12, you can add on these areas where it says yes there, that it can be added with a test alone. You can take that test, and if you pass that test, and you probably would, now you wouldn't apply to the School of Education at IUPUI to add it. You would apply directly to the state. And when you are filling out a license application, you have the choice of choosing who is going to get your application. And for all of our students doing our program, we want them to choose IUPUI because then we recommend it. But if you're adding an area, you just choose the DOE and they will add that area to your license. I'm 100% on that.
Okay.
If you want to email me, go ahead and we could talk about it more. And if you want to give me your sources that said it wasn't possible or something, but I've done this for a long time and it is possible.
Okay.
Okay.
What about those of us who are doing like a dual license in like special education, and I'm an elementary ed major?
That's the next slide.
Cool.
Right here. Okay. And there are tests for that. For elementary education, because you you would have taken in one of those 4 tests for elementary education, you would have taken the reading test, which covers language. So you only need 1 test, which is the mild interventions test number 025. Now, if you have a secondary education license or a P through 12 education license, you did not take the reading test of the elementary education, and that's not, not one that you should look at using right now. So you need 2 tests. You need the 025 mild intervention, and you need 064, the reading intervention, just for secondary and P through 12.
Okay. And when did you say we had to have these tests? Like, we don't have to have these completed before graduation or anything, right?
Just before licensing.
Okay.
And
They need to have them by the date, Marie, by August 31st.
well, by
Right.
August,
Yeah.
they have to be.
Well, because I'm trying to figure out with Pearson, and I've spent hours and hours on the phone with them about getting accommodations as a person who's blind,
Okay.
and nobody can seem to give me straight answers. So if somebody can, I'd appreciate it.
Right, and I have in this link here, from the DOE website, because I was wondering what their current information was about COVID and about everything. So, and that link is right here, and once you can click on it, because we're going to send this link to you, and it's going to be the Epic Ed site. You can click on, there's a lot on that page, but at the bottom, I did notice there is a section about just what you're talking about. And so,
cool.
And who to call. Yeah. There's a lot of information on that page, as a matter of fact. I hope everybody looks at it. There's also help with studying for these tests. There's things that you can do in advance to prepare yourself. There's also a video on there, a YouTube thing, which I decided was kind of long to add on our site, but it's there, and you guys can find it and click on it, and they tell you how to prepare for these tests, which unfortunately we cannot offer tutoring anymore because of COVID. We used to be able to offer tutoring at the School of Education, and it was very helpful because sometimes a student will miss passing a test just by 1 or 2 points. And it's sad, because then they have to take it again and pay again. But if you go in and look at these resources, some are free and some you can purchase. And I really encourage you to have a look at it and see if it would be useful to you, because you don't want to be having to take it again. And it's not that you don't know the material, it's just getting through the test. And so we do encourage you to having a look at these materials to see if it's useful for you. And also, as you can see on there, the test center, this will give you information about test center openings and closings due to COVID. And that's important because last spring, when COVID first hit us, the test centers closed down, obviously. And students who graduated in May had a hard time getting their tests scheduled. And then when the test centers started opening up again in the summer, I heard from a lot of students saying they couldn't get an appointment for a test because there were too many people trying to get them. So on this site, they do encourage you to look at this and try to find your test date and sign up for it early so that you're not left behind in trying to get these scheduled. So let's see what else is on there. Yeah, it tells you all about how to register for the tests and a lot of information on that page, and it's current. So I really encourage you guys to look at that. Any questions about any of this, about the DOE website? Okay, move on. This is important because you're going to be licensed. You need to know what kind of license you're going to have. You're going to be licensed under Indiana Licensing Rules REPA 3. Now, there's been licensing rules previous to this. There was an ordinary REPA. There was Rules 2002. There were Rules 4647. And all of those mean that the state set out a series of rules for universities to do in order to be certified under state rules for licensing and to be accredited. And so right now the rules are REPA 3. When you start filling out your applications for jobs, this is often a question that's on there, is what kind of license are you going to have? And sometimes their applications are not as up to date as the state is, and students don't find REPA 3 listed, and they email me and ask me what to do. And I ask them if they can't just write it in or type it in somehow. But educators want to know what kind of license employers want to know what kind of license you're going to get. And they also want to know what you're going to be licensed in. And you probably know that, that's probably a given. But if you're not sure of what you would put down, email me, email your advisor, so you can get that right on an application. Seems kind of obvious, but if you need a little help with that, we will help. Also, you should know that your license is going to be called an initial practitioner license, and it's valid for 2 years. So you will not want to file for this license, and this is all I'm going to talk about filing for licenses, until after your degree is posted. Because the date that you pay for that license application is the date that goes on the license, and that 2 years is triggered from that date. You could go in and start putting things in your application, but just know that you do not want to make payment for that until you're sure that you have that degree. And that's what I look for in order to recommend your license, is that degree. So after the 2 years, you can renew it for 5 years as a proficient practitioner license. And at some point you might want to go in and look on the DOE site to see what that means, because there's things that you'll be able to do to get ready for that renewal in 5 years. So
wait, so just to clarify,
Sure.
so we shouldn't be taking the test until after we have the degree?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, you should work on those tests now.
Okay.
Starting, and that's why we wanted to give you this information now. So you need time. You're so busy with your studies and everything, but you need time to look at this, read it, figure out what you're going to do and when you're going to do it. Sign up for your tests and take them. And you, if you're in elementary, I don't know if you are or not, but you have those 4 elementary tests to take, plus a pedagogy test. So
Okay. And then what
now.
are you saying to wait till to sign up for after the degree then? I guess I'm
saying to not when you are going to file for your license, and we will give you more information about that in the spring, because you're not going to be doing that now. But you're not to file, you're not to pay for that license application until after you see your degree. And I say this because people do. I have some applications currently in my work queue for state licensing, and they filed too early, and there's nothing I can do. I can hold them for as long as I can in the work queue, but they really should have waited, to file until their degree was actually posted and their tests were finished too. But we will tell you more about that in the spring. I didn't mean to get totally into licensing right now, but you might as well know you're the ones that are going to be licensed, and you're the ones that ultimately need the information.
May I ask a question to that effect? Because I've been speaking with the career consultant, and I'm honestly been encouraged to apply for jobs before I even graduate.
Yes.
So I really want to do that. So we're working on my resume right now. So what do I put? I put or how do I phrase that in the resume so they know it's going to happen, but it hasn't happened yet, because I just have my student teaching in the rest of the semester.
All right, that's good. And on your application, you could ask the career counselor what you would put exactly. You could also email me and I'll send you a letter of pending program completion. And I usually discuss that with people at the licensing meeting. But you're right, you should be in the mode of getting ready to think about how you're going to apply for a job, where you're going to apply for a job, getting your resume ready. And we're going to discuss that more in just a couple of slides because the School of Education does have a career event for you in the spring. And we're going to tell you how to sign up, how to register for that. And then you'll want to work on getting your resume ready for that. And you don't have to have all your testing done before then. You don't have to have, you won't have your degree by then, but you can be working on your resume and getting ready for those applications. Okay. Hope I'm not being too confusing for anyone. I don't mean to be. You can always email. I get a lot of emails from students asking all kinds of questions. So anything that it might seem unclear, just let me know and I'll clear it up. Thank you. All right, on to the next one here. If you're adding anything onto your license, special education, ENL, reading, whatever, it's added at the same grade level as your original license. So if you have an elementary license and you're adding special education, it's going to be added on K through 6, just like your elementary. If you have a secondary license and you're adding something, it would be added on grades 5 through 12. That's the way we are aligned with the state. If you're doing a program with special education as your minor area, you cannot get just a special education license. We're not licensed with the state to do that. So it is one that has to be added on. It can't be a standalone license. I usually get asked that question too. Okay. So I don't know if we have any health people with us who might have had their health education added to their degree, but we are not licensed to add health education, but you can just by taking the test, and then you would apply to the state directly to add that to your license. It is just not one of the things that we can add. Elementary education is also an area that cannot be added to a license. You have, just with testing, you have to do the program and the testing. And if you're doing a middle school area, which some do, social studies, language arts, whatever it is, that can be added to your license for grades 5 through 9, but you will not need another pedagogy test to do that. The test number 005 will take care of that. And if you're a social studies person and you have a couple of areas, historical perspectives, geographical perspectives, whatever it is, you have to have a test. You have to pass a test in each area. So be aware of that if you're a history person. Any questions up to there? Okay, thank you all for paying attention. All right, certifications. You're going to need current CPR Heimlich maneuver AED certification. There's a link on this slide here to the state site showing you the state approved providers. It has to be a state approved provider, and it has to have a hands-on component. You cannot just be one done all online. It does have to have the, the AED, the hands-on component. So you may have already done that with your student teaching, I'm not sure, but it has to be current at the time that you apply for your license. Okay, and you need suicide prevention training. This is something the state requires. IUPUI students have 2 options. IUPUI, we have our own module that you're welcome to do. It's free, obviously, so there's a link for that there, or you could look at that link showing the options that are endorsed by the state. And this is one of the ones that when you complete it, be sure you print out the certificate showing that you finished it, because you're going to need that for your licensing, and you want to keep it in your file. I've had students reach out to me a few years after graduation, and their school district is asking if they ever had suicide prevention training. And they might not have, some didn't hold on to their certificate, and I don't have it anymore. So make sure you hold on to that in case someone down the road wants to see it. The CPR is good for 2 years. So that does have to be renewed. I don't think the suicide prevention has to be renewed. I've never seen that renewal, anything about that. Okay, now this is the career event that I mentioned earlier. And the School of Education belongs to a consortium of, I think there's 14 colleges and universities around the state. We're very lucky to be in this. And so we all get together and work together to put on a wonderful career event in the spring. It used to be live. We used to go to the same place to do it. And at that time, many of those years, there were from 80 to 100 employers signed up for it. It's a big event and it's very popular with employers. Now with COVID, we're not able to do that. So they're going to do a virtual one this year. Now to register for this, the registration starts January 3rd, and that's when you would go in and use this link to register. And the registration continues through February 26th. On March 3rd, I think that's approximately the date that employers are going to be looking at it. Employers will have access to that site where they can see your registration and see what kind of job you're looking at, see the resume that you've uploaded, see whatever you've put in there. And this is very popular with many, many school districts around the state and out of state. We have out of state employers as well. They keep this information. They will use this link through the fall, looking for employees. This stays with them a long time. So when you're in there, you're in. And if there's a chance of a job for you with one of those employers, they have your information. Now, what I want to tell you about filling out that registration, I've listed it here, but I'm just going to read it because it is important that you get it right. You need to, this information will be seen by employers. And once it's in there, we can do some editing, but it's better that it's right as it goes in. So you're going to want to check your spelling and your capitalization. And you're going to want to, as I said, know the type of license that you're going to receive in case employers ask you, what's your license? And you're going to want to know the exact area you're going to be licensed in, not the areas that you might want to teach, but the ones that are actually going to be on your license. Because if you're going to get a license in language arts, for example, and you start listing, phys ed, reading, E&L, things that you might like to teach, that might be why they're contacting you. But you would not have that on your original license. You can talk about that with them later, but please, when you fill out your registration, just put down the area that is actually going to be on your license. Also, they ask if there's any extracurricular activities that you would volunteer for. There's a place for that. So be ready to answer that. That's also a big plus with employers. And also you're going to enter an email address. And I know when students graduate, sometimes that email address changes. And so you want to make sure you put one down where they can email you after graduation.
And in your resume, if you list your contacts, people recommendations, I don't know if David's having you do that, but if you do, make sure there are contact information for when they're off in the summer. So a cell phone, an email that's their personal or that they check through the summer, because they will contact them.
Yeah. Any questions about any of this?
You want
I have
your
a
name
question.
in this book.
Even if
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
What if what I'm specializing in isn't what I want to actually teach?
For example?
I currently am specializing in social studies, but it's not because I didn't really have a choice. It was based on the credits I already had and all that. So it's not something that I actually want to focus in when I become a teacher, but it's technically what I'm specializing in. Is it okay to just leave it out, or do we have to put it? Because I just don't want anyone to think that I want to focus in it just because I specialized in it. You know what I mean?
Well, they will ask you what's going to be on your license. And I don't know if it's going to be historical perspectives or whatever, but you're going to have to put, if you're going to be in this database for employers to find you, you're going to have to list something that, so they can find you. I don't know if there's any place in there where you can, modify that to say, I will be adding to my license or anything like that. Why don't you email me and we can email one of our career people and see if exactly how we could help you phrase that to go in there. I understand what you're saying, and you're not the only one that is probably thinking of something like that. But if you email me or Aaron, we will find an answer for you to put on a resume. How's that? To on a resume
Okay.
or on a registration.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
So I have a question. You keep saying this PowerPoint is a reference. Are you gonna email it to us or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I signed in like a minute late, so I'm sorry.
That's okay. And that's why we're doing this now, to get questions and things on, and it's being recorded. So it will be listed on a site called Epic Ed on the SOE site. And we're also going to send the link to all of you guys. So you can
Okay.
look at it later, and then you'll be able to click on these links and and since you clicked on late, if you have any questions that are not answered in the PowerPoint, just email me. I'm so happy if students email me their questions so that we can get it right for them. That is all I have, and I apologize if it seemed a little clumsy or anything. I'm not the biggest expert on Zoom. But
Would you mind flashing your email again?
the email is
So you write it down.
right there, mjane@iupui.edu. And Aaron's is right below it, ecassidy@iupui.edu.
The biggest thing for you guys to take away from this presentation is take your test now. Take them, because as of August 31st of this coming summer, if you don't have all of the Pearson tests taken, you'll be going and retaking under Praxis, and none of your Pearson will count. At least that's what we're told now.
The Pearson counts if you've got it all done and passed before.
All of them. Yeah.
Yeah, before August 31st, because they're not going to offer you, you're not going to be able to take them after August 31st. So
I think I know what you're saying, but if you pass the Pearsons, you don't have to retake the other one since it's updated, right?
Correct.
Okay, cool.
Correct. Yeah. But you have to pass them all. So elementary, you're going to be passing 5, all 5.
And we really encourage you to go into that DOE site, and there's a link on there. Look at their resources. That's the best we can do right now. We can't offer in-person tutoring right now.
I have a question.
There are resources. Yeah.
How does that work with the additional licensure tests? So say, because I'm doing special ed. So what if I have my 5 elementary ed ones passed, but not my special ed one passed? Is that also going through Praxis, or is that still going to be through Pearson?
Well, then I could only license you for the elementary ed. I mean, you could do the special ed afterward, I believe, and use that to add it on. The special ed in the new series.
In the new series.
In the new series. Because
so it would be Praxis instead of Pearson.
Right.
Okay.
But you do have to, the elementary are set. So they all have to go together and be done.
So does that go along now? Because I promise you, I've asked because I was interested, especially to look like a more valuable candidate, because I don't have a ton of experience and I'm older, but how are you saying, so the elementary people have to pass 5 tests. All I passed was the P through 12 pedagogy and the visual art content test.
That's all you need.
And then I can go ahead and take, I'm going to take this language arts and Praxis or Pearson's, and I'm going to go ahead and take the Spanish because I can speak some, and then I can teach those. It's that easy.
If you pass them.
First, you get your original license. I can't put Spanish or anything else on the original. I can only put on the original license the area that you finished at in our program. That's the only one that I can recommend for licensure. But once you have that original license under your belt, you can add to it per that list that I showed you, and we'll zoom down here so that people who weren't here maybe can see it. Anyone along here that says that it can be added without a test.
And that's the ones that say yes.
Yes.
So I just have to study and know stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
So how early, my last day of student teaching, I email you? Because I got to get this stuff done. That's when I can apply for licensure if my tests are passed?
No. You won't apply for your original license until you see your degree on your transcript.
Your grades.
Until you actually see your degree.
So like May.
And since you're a visual ed person, you all have to also remember that you have to apply for graduation. And that's not in this presentation because that's more of a licensing thing, but you won't graduate in the system until you apply. Now, if you're a visual arts person or a phys ed person listening, you will look on your school's website to see how to apply for graduation.
So I've already done that. And if I applied and I get a bachelor's of art education,
right?
That's all. And then I have a minor in art history. That's what I applied for. That's what I'm getting. But then I email you and I will just have certification to teach other stuff. Is that right?
I will not put those certifications on your license. I understand this is confusing because it's not the usual thing, but once you have your original license, the one that I can recommend you for, and for you, it'll be visual arts, then, and you won't get a hard copy through they don't mail them anymore. They have a green system. You'll go into the system and you'll print off your own license, but you'll have your original license. And then you can add on those other areas, but you apply to the DOE. When you go in to make an application to add your Spanish, on that application, it's going to ask you what institution it goes to. You won't choose IUPUI because you didn't finish that program with us. We can't recommend you for anything except the program you finished. But the state can add any of these when you have taken and passed a test. So you would choose the DOE as the recommending institution. Believe me, it works.
And
so is that going to be the same whether I took Pearson's or Praxis? Like the dates don't matter?
No.
Because the license is already had?
Right. If you've already passed your test, so as long as you have your CPR and your suicide prevention done, and your degree shows on your transcript, then in May, and you apply for your license, and you'll get those instructions later. They're also on the DOE site. Once you have that license, that original license, and then if you have taken and passed the Spanish test or whichever one of these tests that don't require a program, that only require a test, then you go back into Elvis, the licensing site, and you apply to add that to your license, and you choose the Indiana Department of Education as the recommending institution, and they'll issue you another license with that added on.
Cool.
Now you can't add on ENL, you can't add on any of the special education. Those you have to have a program done.
So when do we need to apply for graduation? And like if we take let's say we take the IUPUI module for the suicide prevention training, does that count towards like after we graduate and get a job, or will we have to retake that?
I don't think you have to retake it. I think once you take it, it's taken for life, unless they change the rules later. And that's another thing that I usually mention in the licensing meeting, but I'll say now because we're kind of looking at that as well. You want to apply for licensure as soon as possible after graduation, because there are people, I'm dealing with one right now who graduated 7 years ago, and now she wants her license. So 7 years ago, they didn't require a pedagogy test. 7 years ago, they didn't require suicide prevention training. So she now has to do all those things as well. So if the state adds on any new requirements or certifications or tests for your area, and you don't already have your original license, you have to complete those before you can get your original license. You can't just wait and say, oh, I'll do that in 5 years. I'm going to do something else. My advice is get the license, have it done, because you don't have to be teaching to keep that license. You can go in, they will renew it on a basis of you weren't teaching, but you're still there. You're still alive. You're still breathing. So don't wait forever, because if there's any more requirements added, you have to add those into what you have to do to get a license.
Do you find those add-ons to be transferable, like to other states? Because I've been doing a bunch of research, and a lot of times it's like, if you have the program, you have the license, there's a lot of reciprocity between some states. But then if you're just like tacking things on, do they accept that usually?
Yeah, and that's something we talk about in the licensing meeting is reciprocity with other states. Indiana has reciprocity with many states, but each state will have their own requirements, their own, even different testing. So if you're thinking about going to another state, which sounds like you've already done some looking and some research, you would go to that state's Department of Education website and see what is needed. But whatever is on your Indiana license, and if you've got your original license and you've added on your English or added on, if it's on that license, it goes with you. That's the license you're taking to another state. Yeah. Another thing is, if those sometimes those states ask for a program verification form to be filled out by your school, and I do those. And I do them all the time, you know, after graduation. So just email it to me. I fill it out. We send it either to you or to the state department, whichever state it is. Do it all the time. If you ever have any questions about that, let me know.
Thank you.
I'm glad you brought that up. These people are getting a nice added bonus of licensing information.
And I'm sorry, when did you say we applied for graduation by?
I think I do not exactly know. If email me and I'll ask our licensing.
She'll send that out.
Yeah, and she will.
Yeah, she'll send that out.
She always talks about that in the spring. Be sure to apply for license for graduation.
Okay.
Again, you will not graduate in the system, that is seeing a degree on your transcript, unless you applied to graduate.
And I believe that email will come from D Outlaw
That's
in the
right.
spring semester. So check your IUPUI emails and reply to those.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good question there. Anything else that we can, this virtual teacher candidate interview day, you know, I would get in there and put your application in, whether or not you think it's going to be a place where you're going to find a job. Just get in there, because that's where information is going to be held about about teacher education candidates looking for jobs. It's going to be probably very vast. We usually take about 100 to 120. We used to take about 100 to 125 IUPUI students to this event every spring. Now it's going to be a virtual event where you have, you know, a couple of months here to put your application in. But that was the level of interest in the past, and it really should signal what the level of interest should be now, because this goes to school districts all around the state and out of state. It's just a good place to drop your information for. I mean, these are HR people, these are principals, these are superintendents, whoever in that school district is looking for employees. This is a really major place where they look.
Okay.
So you guys are going to send this PowerPoint out today, because there's a few things I want to look over again, but if you try to like take a screenshot of it, it's too fuzzy and you like can't see it.
Yes, I know, and I apologize for that.
No, you're fine.
I was gonna send it to Craig actually, and
Okay.
he's chair of teacher ed. And it's also going to be located on the School of Education site. We
Okay.
believe under Epic Ed, but it's going to be emailed to all of you.
Thank you.
Even if we're specials?
Even if you're special area or?
Yeah, we'll make sure it goes to art, PE, and all the others too.
1, 2.
And if you don't get it, there's my email address right there. That's not too hard to write down. mjane@iupui.edu. Email me and I'll send it to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we want you to have it. And I'm so glad that you guys wanted to have this information now, because you do need time to look at this, study it, make your plans. Again, check those resources on the Department of Education site. Some are free, some you have to purchase. But if you're going to take one of these tests and you're going to pay money for it, and you don't want to take it over and over again. You don't want to miss by 1 or 2 points and have to take it again. And believe me, we have seen students to whom that's happened. And it's not just the students at our university. We've talked to our friends at these other universities in the consortium we're in. It happens to their students too. If they just didn't prepare enough, they could miss by 1 or 2 points. And then you have to take it again, because you have to have these tests and you have to pass them to get a license.
So the practice tests that you have to pay for, it's annoying that you have to pay for them, but they really kind of help you see how they word it.
Yeah.
How they word stuff, And
Yeah.
then even if you do kind of bad on those, like I didn't do bad, but then I passed the real thing with flying colors because I studied.
I'm so glad that you're sharing that. I've always thought that was important. And for anyone who tuned in late, we used to offer in-person tutoring, but with COVID, we can't do that. So that's why we're really plugging this DOE information so that you have a chance to study. And you guys are going to have a lot of time. You've got over Thanksgiving, you've got over Christmas. But remember, with the COVID thing, you want to get your test scheduled. Even if you're scheduling way out or something, but get on the books, because and we don't know what's going to happen with COVID, but at last spring, they closed the COVID centers for a while, the in-person testing centers. And when they reopened them, a lot of students had trouble getting appointments for tests because of the demand. Now, I don't know how that's going to go. We don't know. That's an unknown, but we want to give you every advantage in trying to line up your tests.
I have a question.
Sure.
So for the CPR, I'm already CPR certified because of my job.
Mm-hmm.
Would that count, or would I need to take another one, or?
It has to be current when you apply for your license. And that's one thing. And with CPR, even with testing and SPT, a lot of times I just have students scan or take a picture with their phone and send it to me. I don't save it or anything, but I look at it. I keep an Excel sheet, a database of each of you with your student ID number. If you ever contact me, please put your student ID number on the email, that 000 number, and then I can find you easily, because I do have to check it out. And I mark off everything that you've sent me to prepare for your licensure. So when that moment comes when I can check recommend, I don't have to go looking for it. It's there. I already know at what point you are. And I keep notes about whether or not I've emailed you and what I've sent you and what you've sent me, so that I can just do it real quickly. And I do at licensing time. I'm checking emails every day. I'm checking the licensing database every day, and I license you as quickly as I can. If you make sure you choose IUPUI as the recommending institution, there are a list of IU schools, obviously Bloomington, Kokomo, whatever, all over the state, Northwest. If you happen to, it's a drop down. If you happen to slip and choose another university, it will get to me eventually, because the person at that university will forward it to me, but it won't be in my work queue, right away. So when you're doing your drop down for the recommending institution, make sure it's IUPUI.
So as long as my CPR certification is current, it would still work?
Current at the time you apply for your license, which for you guys will be next May. after you see your degree posted on your transcript.
But
When's it going to expire?
Well, I work at a daycare, so I actually have to have it renewed every year and not every 2 years.
Okay.
So I'm still good.
I will look for that. I will look for that date. I have to. They sent us an email. The state contacted licensing advisors in the state several months ago, last year or something, saying that has to be current. And I have to do that. My name is going on that recommendation. So.
But it only is certain ones, correct?
Correct.
For the CPR, so it might not be valid depending, because I am CPR certified, but it's through Ellis, and I don't think, someone told me somewhere that the Department of Ed does not accept that one.
Okay, or you can check, you can click on this link when you get this, and there's a list of the state approved CPR providers.
Okay, thank you.
Or ask me. Sometimes they don't see it on the list, or it's buried on the list someplace, maybe under another name. And all I have to do is ask my state contact. And again, that's another thing. If you have a question about something that might have to be answered by the DOE, if you don't mind, send it to me and I will send it to the DOE person, and they answer us almost immediately. Whereas they get very busy and you might not find your answer right away. But if you have a question about is this institution okay for my CPR, then you know, and it's not on that list, you can send it to me and they know right away whether it is or not. Again, it has to have a hands-on component. Some of these are listed and they're online, and that's fine, except you would also sign up to go somewhere for a hands-on component.
So I have a question. If right now we're in the middle of this pandemic and there's not supposed to be interaction, how are we supposed to be certified with hands-on?
Well, you would go to someplace and you would be wearing a mask and you would follow those regulations. We have a provider that we use, that we've been using at the School of Education. He's a fire chief, and I took the class once from him. It's great. And he doesn't schedule many classes anymore, so we can't offer them like we used to. If we do get one, if he does notify us that he's got a class coming up, he lets us know and we send that out to you. But in his last notice, I looked at it and he was giving a class, and he did say that everyone would have to wear a mask and there'll be separation, you know, in the class. So they do it safely, obviously. He's a firefighter. So.
Chief Griffith and Decatur is the gentleman who did ours. And because we can't be on campus, we're not doing any CPR sessions now, but he does do them at other locations, and he's been sending those to us regularly. So we'll send that out to you and make sure through your faculty or Craig or somebody that you'll get notice of those. Yeah. Now there are other sites, but keep in mind, they're doing social distancing, they're doing masks, just like everybody else. But when you do the hands-on component, you're doing it on a dummy, you know, a thing. So you'll do the mouth, but they have the papers they switch and all of that. So you will be safe as possible to do those.
Yeah. That's a great question. Thank you.
And then for the suicide prevention course that's offered through IUPUI, can you take that whenever?
Yep.
Yeah, just as long as you have it done for your licensure, you have that certificate. And as I said, when you finish the module, either the IUPUI module or one of the ones endorsed by the DOE on their site, make sure that when you finish with it, there's a place where you print off a certificate showing that you finished it, because that's what you're going to upload into your ELVA, into your license application. And many times students just scan it, take a picture of it and send it to me, because that's what I do. I keep track. you'll all be in a database, which will go away eventually. After you're licensed, you won't be in that database anymore. But I just keep track of everything you've done. So when it's time for me to click that recommend license, and I had to do that today with a girl who contacted me last spring about licensing. And I was looking at it and I realized I marked off that I had seen her tests, but I went back in to check anyway, but I already had marked off in my database that she had them. It's a way for me to keep track. There's a lot to keep track of for you, for me. If I have a place where I record it, it's much easier for me to keep track of you, and your licensure goes much faster. Plus any questions that you've had, or, you know, anything that you need, that's recorded in there too. I kind of know where you are with this process.
And by any chance, do you know how long that online module takes?
I do not.
Taking it, it's really brief. It's like 30 minutes.
Good. We have a veteran here. Good.
I have a question.
Sure.
So my CPR and first aid training doesn't expire until May, but can I, like, how early can you take it to renew? Does it matter? Like, could I take it next month to like renew it?
Or wait until closer to time when it expires, because then it will expire again in 2 years. And you'll be teaching, you'll have to renew it. You might want to give yourself the longest window of time when it's still valid.
Okay.
You know, yeah.
The CPRs you'll continue to update. And some schools, once you get employed, will offer CPRs through them. If they don't, then you'll have to go to another provider. The suicide, one time only, at least for now, but the CPR will need to be kept current.
Yeah.
For when it expires.
But again, please do apply for your licensing as soon as possible after graduation, after you see your degree posted, because if the state added in anything else, then I'd have to be notifying you to say, oops, you got to do one more thing. And I don't want to do that. You know, you've done enough. So, but there are people who wait. I know there was one person last year who was moving far out of the country and was going to be gone for a few years and wasn't going to apply for her license until she got back. And I said, you know, why don't you just get your license now? And when you come back, all you have to do is renew it. And if they add anything in, you don't have to do anything else. You have a current license, because she was coming back. So she said, okay, she said, you talked me into it. And she decided to do that. So there's one thing solved. She won't have to, if they impose any new restrictions, she won't have to do them when she comes back into the country. I see it all the time.
Just out of curiosity, what is the process for renewing it? Like, do we have to do anything extra for that?
Well, and you might want to go to the DOE site, and there's a search up in the corner. And just, I mean, we will talk about this in the licensing meeting in the spring, but you could just type in renewal and it'll show you. And when you graduate and have your current license, you definitely should look at that, because you have 2 years before the renewal, and there's things you could be doing in those 2 years, whether it's things you do in your school district or it's taking coursework. You might want to check or, you know, you can talk to your school district and say, how can you help me renew my license? They probably have a plan too. Just make sure you know how you're going to do that. So in 2 years, all you have to do is apply and you're ready to go. But there is a whole section
called
on
the
that.
professional development plan or professional growth plan.
Yeah.
And there's different things that count different amounts and so many points and stuff. So yes, Maureen, do what Maureen has suggested and look at that online.
And some of it is coursework as well. And if you're going to be, some of you might be going for a master's after you get your first degree, and the coursework toward your master's will count toward renewal. So just check it out so you don't have to wonder in 2 years, what am I going to do?
2 years goes fast.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about like what master's degrees help us? Because I know like they used to get paid for, but now like You get a master's and, you know, your pay bracket kicks up quite a bit. But say I want to do that, do I have to get it in education? Can I get a master's in ceramics? Can I get a master's in, or does it just have to be a master's degree?
You know, that would be probably something the school district where you're working would want to address.
Okay, good.
They'd be the ones paying you, you know, and ask them specifically,
Okay,
you know, how does that work for you? And if you need to talk to one of our graduate advisors about what we have, and she might know some too, you can, her name is Karina Cruz. Excuse me, you could email me and I could put you in touch with her.
great. Thank you.
Any other questions? I'm so glad you had so many good questions, and I hope this has been helpful for everybody. So again, we're going to mail this link to you, and it's going to be online. And there are our email addresses. You can ask us anything and we'll help. And thank you all. I think we're done unless there's any more questions.
I have a quick question.
Okay.
So from past, like, my friends who have graduated in education and become a teacher, most of them have gotten like emergency licenses because they couldn't pass the test. Do you have any information on that?
An emergency license is a deal between the school district and the state. So I don't recommend those. We don't have anything else to do with that, but sometimes those are used while people work on passing their tests. So if you're considering that, if that needs to be done, I would you need to talk to your school district, because they are the ones. I don't recommend those. I don't have anything to do with it, but the school district works with the DOE for those.
But here's the thing for you guys, and this is why we wanted to have this meeting. That has happened in the past, but as of August 31st of this summer, 2021, if you do not have, as the elementary person, all 5 of those tests taken and passed, you will have to do all of the praxis. They will not count any of those Pearson tests that you have taken prior. Okay, so that's the big thing on this seminar. Or secondary, if there's a test in your area, like for the social studies, that you haven't passed, you either pass them all by August 31st of 2021, or you are taking all of the new tests.
And once you have passed them, they are good for licensure after August 31st forever, they're saying.
Forever.
But they have to be passed by August 31st. They're not going to offer those tests anymore, the core tests anymore, after August 31st, 2021.
So my question is, what's the big difference between the core and the praxis? Is the praxis supposed to be harder than the core?
We don't really have information on that yet. We're expecting to learn more about the new series and what they're going to do in the future. And you can always check on the DOE site to see what right now they're not giving information about the new series. They're just telling us there's going to be a new series.
You know, before the core test, we went through a period where we offered praxis 1 and praxis 2. People still struggled with those. Before the praxis, there was another test for teachers. I can't remember exactly what it was called. Some people struggled with it. So there's no like easy test. If you know the information, it's easy. If you're, you know, you kind of struggle. I struggle with test taking. Test taking is not my forte. So, you know, if you can take these and get them passed, you are good to go. And that's the only thing with those emergency license. Yes, they allow you to teach, and then you can pass the test that next year, but you guys are not going to have that option, okay? Only because they're doing away with the Pearson test. So do not start them and not finish, because you'll be doing all of the praxis then. Right, Maureen?
Another whole series, yeah. And again, this on this link here to the DOE, all of the information about testing is there, including how to study for them, and when you can take the test, and how you assess your score report, and a lot is there about preparation materials, which I hope you find helpful. So this I got this off the DOE site. It's current. Just go look there and find as much as you can about your testing. And if you need help, if you have questions, just email me. You know, I'll help you, or I'll find someone who can.
And you said if you need testing accommodations, this is where you should go as well?
There is and I didn't put it in my little list here, but there's a section on there about testing accommodations. I saw it.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, any more questions? I'm gonna send this to Craig, and he's gonna send it to everybody. And if you don't get it, you see my email there, email me and I'll send it to you. And any questions, we'll help you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. You've been great. I think.
Thanks.
All right, I'm gonna sign off, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.